Welcome to Business of Being Black with Tammi Mack. I'm Tammi Mack. Now, according to the American Medical Association, physicians who treat minors have an ethical duty to promote the developing independence of minor patients by involving them in making decisions about their own health to the degree that they are capable. But when does a minor become capable of having a say in their own well-being? When do children start to know what is best for them? Well, let's get down to business. The business of being Black today is, should minors have independent doctor visit rights? Please welcome nurse practitioner Joshua E. Brown. Hi, Joshua.
Hi, everyone. How are you?
The president and CEO of Fortitude Health and Wellness, Janet Brooks. Hi, Janet.
Hi, how's everyone?
Good. The founder of Mass Exodus Movement, Keisha King, is with us. Hi, Keisha.
Hello.
And author and speaker, Dr. Raphael Usher. Hi, Dr. Usher.
How you doing, ma'am? Nice to be here.
Nice to have you. Why should Black people care is the question I always want to know, because the title of this show is The Business of Being Black. So why should Black people care whether minors have an independent right to doctor visits? Why should they care, Janet?
They should care because you have so many children, especially Black children, that are living in poverty, that are homeless, that are participating in sexual activity, that are doing drugs. And so it is important that they make decisions for themselves, because many of them don't have the parental guidance. Many of them living on the street don't have the guidance. And so going in to see a doctor would be totally on them. And if they don't go, if they're not able to, based on hindrance because of laws that we put in place, then they won't get the help that they need. We have implemented programs across the country, and I've talked to so many young people who would not have even gotten help if they hadn't gone to a free clinic.
Keisha,
and we have privacy rights.
Why should Black people care, Keisha?
Well, we should care because, particularly as a mother, you want to make sure that your child is getting the best medical care possible. No one cares for your child more than your parents. And so unless there is a situation where there is no parental guidance or a guardian, then I understand where, that's a different situation. But as far as what goes on with my child, I certainly want to be involved. And I think we all should want to be involved when it comes to our children, regardless of our socioeconomic background. We still want to know we still have the best in mind for our children.
Joshua, why should Black people care if minors can have control over their own medical and health well-being?
Well, every individual is entitled to autonomous care without confounding variables. And oftentimes, in our community especially, unfortunately, sometimes the parent can be the confounding variable. In situations such as sexual health or pregnancy, or even drug and alcohol abuse that happen in preteens and adolescents, sometimes children need to have a safe space, even outside of their parents, although that is not ideal sometimes, but sometimes it has to be ideal.
Dr. Usher, let's get with it. Why should Black people care about this issue of minor own well-being?
I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to tell you why.
Please do.
Listen, when you're talking about why Black people should care, I remember when I was a caseworker, most parents that were being locked up or being, harassed by DCF or Department of Children and Family Services were Black parents, because they were failing to do certain things to help their child maintain that child under control. So now you're telling me that we want to give this child the freedom to go out, seek medical treatment without telling the parent, and the child could be lying about their issues, or the child could be ignorant about the issues, or the child may not even know that he has or she has an issue. And then we open up the door under current law that the parent's going to be held liable for something that maybe the parent didn't know. So I'm always a proponent of parental consent, because at the end of the day, we're going to be the ones held liable, not their child. I don't know how else you can make it more plain.
That's an excellent point. Parents are oftentimes liable for their children. So it's kind of like being at a job and you're the boss, something goes awry, the ball falls on you. So, Joshua, what does the American Medical Board say about minors having autonomy over their care?
Yeah, in 1992, the Medical Board released a statement, and the Medical Board basically stated that we as practitioners and providers, we should always try to involve the parents because, as you've already stated, prefrontal cortex isn't truly developed until 21, and oftentimes kids don't even have the ability to make a decision that's worth anything until about 14 or 15. But sometimes, if we feel ethically that the parent's involvement is hindering the child, we have the duty to do no harm. So it's a ethical decision given by the medical board, basically.
Got it. So at what age does a child become capable of making decisions about their own health care? Keisha, at what age does this happen?
I think we should leave it at 18 because we know, especially if you have teenagers, even when they get around 15, 16, 17, that is some of the most trying times where they do some of the craziest things. So I think, as long as for me, as long as you're in my house, I'm not saying that when you're 18 that I have to go to the doctor with you. But if you're in my house, I certainly want to know what is going on with you so I can help you fail or help you correct those things in a safe environment. So if you are going to go out and make a mistake, I want to be able to help you correct those things while, you're still in my care. So I would say 18. There some of the most egregious harms to human rights have been by doctors, and no shade to the doctors or the medical professionals on the show, but in history, having that MD behind your name has attributed to many violent and egregious human rights acts. And so I think we need to carefully consider how much leeway you give a medical professional when it comes to your child, because these are strangers. You don't know these people. You don't know their beliefs. You have no idea who these people really truly are and the beliefs that they hold. But you do know your child, and you do know by and large, most parents have the best interest of their child at hand. And I would like to see the data of all of these, parents who are just not doing what they need to do when it comes to their children.
Yeah. It's interesting. Yes, I think Black people specifically and in particular have had to deal with a horrible medical system in America. And we're now fighting this Black infant mortality rate where now women are starting to have advocates, expectant women are starting to have advocates come into the room with them when they're giving birth, because it's been some horrific things happening with medical experts and doctors when it comes to Black women and Black babies. So you make an excellent point there, Keisha. I appreciate that. Janet, when is a child capable of speaking on their own behalf when it comes to their health? What age do you think?
Well, I think it's the circumstances, but I would say about 12. I would, because when you're out there in the community, it sounds really nice when you say, you want your child to come to you, but I'm a parent and my children are grown. I found out a lot of things that happened in their lives that I didn't know about, and I was a good parent. Your child is not going to come to you about everything. And with many, especially females, if they're pregnant, if they have a venereal disease, many of them aren't going to come to their parents. They're going to go to their best friend. And their best friend is going to misdirect them on what they should do as far as their health care. I agree that we have been in a society that has basically been annihilating us in the healthcare system. We've been experimented on, but I'm looking at young people who are just left out in the cold, not those children that are in wonderful families and, they tell their parents everything. In many cases, that is not the case. And so from my experience in dealing with young people, they're not going to tell you that they need help. and they might have syphilis or some other type of venereal disease. They'll just carry it on. They won't go get help. And I'm talking from 10 to 11. We're on a different playing field now with young people and the way they're growing up and how fast they're growing up and what they know as far as living and their health care.
Dr. Usher?
Listen, when it comes to these kids that are being left on the streets, we do have laws on the book called Emancipation Laws. That means that if a child doesn't have an adult parent and this child doesn't have what they call a group home to go to, then the child can be emancipated and then legally held responsible for his own health care. There is no need currently and no justification currently to even think about the notion of giving this child that has a mom, has a dad or a grandma or somebody in their lives, liberties to go do things. And for what's this deal with this magic 12 number? That's like, you're like the third person I've talked to. They got this magic number 12. If they're 12 years old, then they should be able to do it. Listen, I got a kid that's older than the age of 12 who had a cyst in his mouth. And for years, he didn't even tell us until after I noticed he was eating funny. And I'm like, dude, let me see your mouth. He opens up his mouth. I see this big old thing. And I'm like, dude, we got to get to the doctor. Kids don't know when they're in danger because that's why God created parents. We're the ones to tell them, hey, dude, hey, girl, you're in danger. But for all those innocent little kids on the street, I've worked on the streets of Joe Johnson.
You're in danger, girl. Let's take a quick break and come right back. Welcome back to Business of Being Black with Tammi Mack. And today, the business of being Black is, should minors have independent doctor visit rights? Please welcome nurse practitioner Joshua E. Brown, the president and CEO for Fortitude Health and Wellness, Janet Brooks, the founder of Mass Exodus Movement, Keisha King, and author and speaker, Dr. Raphael Usher. So, Joshua, let's get down to you. What should be the age? What do you think the age should be for to consider a minor capable of making his or her own health decisions?
The age is contingent on the human. 12 is an arbitrary number. 18 is as well. Many times people say 18 simply because that's just the age of an adult. If you look at the research, most girls can make decisions and understand what their decisions mean in the future at about 12, 13. Now, they don't understand that they don't make good decisions until about 18 usually. Boys, a lot later. So it's really contingent on whatever that human may be. But again, this is all in a space based on the actual human.
Yeah. I don't know that 18 is an arbitrary number, because 18 is the age of which most children are considered legal adults in a sense, right? So it's not as arbitrary as you say. 12 is quite arbitrary, but based on the information you just gave us, I could see why someone would say 12 or 13. Janet, why do you say 12?
I say 12 because at that age, and I'm looking more at the female than the male, and it is true, young women start coming into womanhood. And my concern is a lot of these young women are just left to be on their own. And we can't judge what we do with children in our society based on what we're doing with our children and them having a good home and them having a safe space. There's so many children that are, I taught school for a year in a high school. Before I could even deal with the children, I had to deal with their problems. We're talking incest, molestation, being beaten up by the mother's boyfriend. These kids are out there and they don't have a safe space. So if they're sexually active, if they, have wounds from being beaten by the mother's boyfriend, there are just so many different obstacles facing them. I think it's hubris of us to think that children are just going to find a way. Because as I said, it is a different playing field for children in 2022. They are facing things that I didn't face when I was growing up. And I'm sure many of us that are talking here, we didn't go through when we were growing up. So I think 12 is a good number to at least have some understanding of what you're doing.
Dr. Usher, what type of documentation is needed for a minor to visit a doctor without their parent?
Well, currently, it just depends on the state that you live in. So far as I am aware of, in Tennessee, Kentucky, and Florida, you got to have parental consent, whether it's the mom that takes the child into the to the doctor's office, or a call is made that, hey, I can't make it, but I'm gonna drop Jimmy off with the uncle. But normally, if a child is showing up to a doctor's visit without a parent, the doctor in Kentucky, Tennessee, and Florida, they're gonna call DCF and start filing for child neglect.
Oh, wow. What types, let's get into this. We talked about what age a child should be capable of making health decisions for themselves, but what type of health decisions is okay for a child to make for themselves?
A Band-Aid.
Band-Aid, okay. All right. There's a bar. Janet, you're laughing?
Yes, I'm laughing. I mean, this is very serious. As I said, I think, yes, there are some major decisions they should not be able to make. But when we're talking about their sexual activity, their health, and that's what I'm looking at. If they have any type of venereal disease, mental health, there's just so much. So I think, yes, they should have a part in that. And what if you have a parent that is a drug addict, that's an alcoholic, that does go with you, that's not even playing a part in your life, they just show up. They're not really your parent. You have so much of that going on. So, you know, it is a difficult situation, but the situation should not be at the expense of the minor. And so for me, my take on it is the minor has to take more responsibility for his or her self-care and her health. Because I've seen what happens on the other end of that when they don't, nothing is done. It's not pretty.
Dr. Usher talked about his son having some type of cyst in his mouth, right? Is that something that he should have been able to perhaps go to the doctor himself and take care of if he wanted to, or no?
I do not believe that. Again, I will say children, we see this time and time again, where children, especially around these ages, this is like, you know, we're saying this, the 12 to 16, 15, in that, when they become teenagers, that age range is so, I have a 15-year-old daughter and a 13-year-old daughter. I have to monitor, you know, their cell phone usage because they're not thinking about, okay, you know, I've spent too much time on this. They don't think in that way. That's why they have parents, and I'm not saying that every family situation is, you know, perfect. However, I don't know who these doctors are. And you don't know the type of conversation that is going on when it's just the child and just the doctor. There are doctors who have done, you know, inappropriate things with children as well. And so I still believe that parents are the best place for children to have that safe space, instead of saying, okay, well, just push them off to some person who happens to be a doctor or a medical professional without, you know, it's just like, well, I'm just gonna, because we don't know what the parent, the home life is, we're just gonna push them off into some stranger and just pray and hope that they have their best interests at heart. We don't know these people. And so, you know, I understand that every situation is not perfect, but that does not mean that we should let these strangers, these external people come into your family life and dictate what should be going on. Because what if that goes against your own values?
Mm-hmm.
What if their recommendations go against what you want to have for what you know is best for your child? They are getting a small peek into the window of that child. You are with them every day. So you're going to let a stranger come in and dictate such, critical care or critical issues to your child when you know them best? No, I don't think so. Absolutely not.
Yeah. So Joshua, when Keisha talks about leaving your children in the care or in the hands, leaving their health in the hands of doctors without the parent knowing, it automatically makes me think of the United States Olympic team, who their parents thought and trusted those doctors that were working with them, those coaches that were working with them, and put them under their care. And we all have seen what happened there. Some of them are now jailed for misconduct with those young ladies. Joshua.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. Especially the Black community, we don't trust medicine. My first degree was from Tuskegee University, and I'm sure all of you know the Tuskegee experiment. So I get it. I understand. But going back what Keisha said, sometimes the parents' values are actually not what's best for the child. I'll give you an example. I've had kids come into my office. I'm depressed. Parent, I don't believe in that. You're not depressed. The kid ends up killing himself. I mean, there are some cases where the values of that parent are actually not the best for that kid. So again, I don't think it's cut and dry and black and white. And I do think that most parents have the best thoughts for their kids. But sometimes we as Black people allow religion and things of that sort to make us not, as we say down south, make a lick of sense. The kid comes to their parent and says, I'm having sex, I'm doing this, blase, blase, blase. And something's burning. They don't want to talk about it. I don't want to hear that. I don't want to talk about that. Again, these are anomalies. But again, oftentimes the safe space is sometimes just not the parent.
So you would say that because a parent is not.
Hold that thought, Keisha. Hold that thought. We got to take a commercial break, but I saw you giving that Black motherly look like, So we're coming right back. Welcome back to Business of Being Black with Tammi Mack. I am Tammi Mack. The business of being Black today is, should minors be able to make health decisions for themselves? And we were leaving off with Keisha responding to Joshua.
So my question is, because there are parents who, may not, when it comes to mental health, who may not understand mental health, your suggestion is to curve the parents and just talk to the child directly instead of bringing the parent in to help maybe educate the parent on, what this leads to and what could happen and all these types of things. The child is going to still be the majority of the time with their parents. So why in the world would we say, parents, we're gonna put you over here, we're gonna curb you and just, deal with the child directly? That doesn't make sense to me. Why wouldn't instead we bring the parent into the conversation and help to educate the parent instead of leaving them out of the conversation altogether, where the child goes back to spend the majority of their time anyway? I don't understand that.
Well, I never said that. What I was saying was, I think the child should have the space to come to the medical professional. Any medical professional of sound mind should say, hey, at this point, and actually the medical board actually says this, at that point, once a child comes to you, you should say, where is your parent? Why do you feel uncomfortable going to the home? And if they give you a sound reason as to say, my mom is this, or I don't know what the sound reason may be, then at that point, sure. If they're saying, well, I'm depressed, my mom doesn't believe in this, blase, 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 I'm going to say, let me bring mom in. If mom still does not believe in it, I'm still going to refer the child to a therapist. I mean, that's just my medical duty to do so.
Dr. Usher, you want to jump in?
Listen, we're not living in the 1960s where parents are ignorant. I mean, I grew up in the 80s, in the 90s, and now the 2000s. And I'm telling you, my generation, we're not stupid about the issues. Maybe back in the 1960s, they didn't want to talk to their kids about sex. But bro, we grew up under Madonna, Prince, and the rest of the crew. And let me tell you, salt and pepper, let's talk about sex, baby. We already know about sex. We talk about sex. I don't know of a lot of Black people that don't talk to their kids about sex. And one of the things that I always try to encourage young women and young men to do is to understand that, hey, you don't have to have sex. You don't have to listen to those people on the radio. And so what I'm trying to say is this. One lady, I think her name is Miss Janet, she's talking about the kids that are having venereal diseases and all this stuff. Look, in my honest opinion, they shouldn't be having sex in the first place. But if they are having sex, the first person that needs to be talked to is the parent. And when you talk about, well, I don't know if the parent's going to have the same mindset about mental health because of their religion and whatnot. Listen, I've worked as a caseworker for 12 years of my life in the most ridiculous places in America, the most poverty-ridden places you can think of. And I'm going to tell you something. When a doctor sees that a child is in need, the first thing that doctor is going to do is going to send a caseworker. And that's what I would do. I was sent out and I would get to know the parent, get to know the situation. And part of a job of a caseworker is not to place judgment on the parent, but to find out what's the ideology of the parent and where can we find a middle ground, maybe educate, like Keisha said, educate the parent. And 99.9% of the time, when I educate the parent as a Black person to a Black mama, 90% of the time it's a Black mama involved. When you explain to them, look, your child has this issue, your child needs help. I'm going to be here with you as your child gets help. I'm going to make sure that nothing bad happens to him, because like Tammi said, you know, we had those Olympic doctors. You know, when it came to the transgender issue, we had that Dr. William Money, who was doing these experiments when the parents' backs were turned, making these kids do ridiculous things. So I am a proponent of, no, get the parent involved. Under every circumstance, parents should be involved.
Janet,
period.
Let's get in here.
That all sounds wonderful. But again, let me take you back. You have 700,000 youth, young adults that are unaccompanied by a parent or a guardian. They're just out there. What we want to do is not alleviate them in this system and bring them back. And if that means that they go on their own, if they're 12 years old, to see a doctor, I'm all for that. It's not about putting the blame on parents. It's about helping the minors. That's what we have to focus on. And not all doctors are bad. I agree. Black people have been done a number on in the healthcare system, and women are dying, you know, giving birth. There are so many issues, but this issue is dealing with a minor who, as you say, doesn't necessarily have the capacity to make the greatest decisions, but at least making a decision to go see a doctor when something is wrong is on a path to help them. And as I have worked across this country in some of the most impoverished places, implementing programs, tracking them, looking at youth and what they're doing as far as health and health prevention. And you have many parents who don't want to get involved. They're working 2 jobs, they're too busy. They can't even get to the school to see about their children. So, you know, we need to be real about what is going on with our children, and we need to find a way to help them, whether it's programmatically, going in, trying to get the whole family together in a church, but there has to be a way that we get to them. And it's not, as I said, being condescending to parents, but there's a big problem here, and we need to be realistic as to what is going on and what to do for our kids.
Janet, I want to ask you, if a minor receives test results that are a life-threatening condition, don't want to reveal that to their parents, does the doctor have the right to tell the parent anyway? Should the doctor tell the parent anyway?
I believe they should, yes. Yes, I do believe they should. And that's why I think we need specific guidelines set up instead of the just kind of like open-ended questions that we have for our youth today.
So you don't believe that contradicts your theory of the doctors, that the minors should be able to go to the doctors on their own with or without their parents? Because what if, according to what you're saying, what if the parents is upset because the deathly disease goes against some things that they believe, some choices that they have in their life that they abide by, and they put the child out?
Well, that happens in many cases. It's with immunizations. When kids have gotten a certain age, they have taken themselves to get immunized because parents didn't believe in it. I do believe there is a line that should be drawn. If a child has a life-threatening disease, I do believe the parents should be brought in on it.
Joshua, do you feel the same?
Absolutely. And the medical board calls us to do that. If at any point we feel that whatever result or whatever they're bringing us is at harm to that child, then we are required to tell the parent. Obviously, if it's one of those type of cases. Like I said, when I was talking, we're not talking about like child has cancer. No, we're talking about sexual diseases and stuff like that. So no, what you need to be doing is, hey, Johnny, we're going to talk to your parent right now about what's going on, because obviously the 14-year-old doesn't know about bone cancer. I mean, obviously.
Oh, okay. Go ahead, Keisha.
I was just going to say, before someone had said about, parents not knowing exactly what to say or knowing what to do in certain situations. And I think sometimes like some of these words that we use, I forget exactly the word that he used, but it's kind of like, for instance, if we use the word, the parent's not going to be supportive. What does supportive mean? Like, I think we use these words that they're very relative. And so we're trying to use words that can be interpreted.
Just because a parent doesn't agree doesn't mean that they're not supportive.
Exactly. And so when we are saying these things with these words like that, it can mean a plethora of things to the person who's saying it and the person who's hearing it. So what does that mean to you? And I will push back and say, if this child that I have brought into this world, if I want to bring them up into the world with certain values, that is my business. Up until that they get out of my house or up until they are 18 years old, it is not your business to say, even as a doctor, oh, that's not an appropriate way to bring up your child, who you are responsible for, in the world, that you are the one that's going to be called if something goes down. So this whole notion of trying to, and I get that, I don't think that you guys are saying this, Ms. Janet or Joshua, that you're trying to say to remove parents completely, but it's a slippery slope. When we start to remove them in this instance, but not in that instance, when we remove them from over here and not over there. And
let's remove ourselves and go to commercial break. Welcome back to Business of Being Black with Tammi Mack. I am Tammi Mack. Hello there. Today, the business of being Black is, should minors seek help from doctors without parental consent? So Keisha, I want to ask you, what if a parent is abusive, and I know I'm taking an extreme situation, but I'm just trying to see where you are here. If a parent is abusive, known to be abusive because that child has dealt with that before, and the child goes to the doctor and finds out that, let's just use a woman is pregnant, for instance, a young girl is pregnant. And she, may not want to share that with her parents because it may put her out of the house. It may cause her to be beaten or an extreme situation. What do you believe in that case?
Well, I think abuse, to any human being, it's a crime, and we already have laws on the books for that. So if a crime is happening, certainly yes, we need law enforcement, or we have we have that system set up where they can step in. But that's not what I'm understanding here. These are like you said, that those are extreme circumstances. So I don't think we should, because they are extreme, then we need to make more laws that interferes with parents' rights within the confines of their own property and their own children and their own home. So I would not want, obviously, any child to be abused. And like I said, there are situations where that, unfortunately, that does happen, and we have a system set up where that can be handled. I don't think that bringing in more external people who do not have a relationship with you or your children beyond that small window of time, that we should be bringing them in to make more decisions for your child. There are so many instances, I have done this even myself, where I thought as a teenager, oh, this is a great idea. And now I have gone back to my parents many times and said, oh my God, I can't believe I did that. I should have listened to my parents, because when you are a child, you do childlike things, and you cannot foresee what is best for you, because you're not putting together all the factors that this is going to affect. You just don't have that life experience yet. And I know probably every single person on this panel has had to think back and say, I'm sure that was pretty stupid of me to do as a child. And you go back.
Dr. Usher, I want to get you in here. T.I. said that he goes to the gynecologist with his 18-year-old daughter to check her hymen. We all know why hymens are being checked, but should that be the case? Should he be allowed to go to the doctor with his daughter to check her hymen?
Listen, you said she was 18 years old. So legally, she's an adult. So legally, she can tell T.I. to keep his butt at home and keep his business out of her purse. But if,
So
if
let's say, let's just say
No.
let's say for the sake of this show that
Mhm.
she's a 16-year-old girl and he's
Mhm.
going to check her hymen.
Now listen, if a doctor's going down, I got a daughter. If a doctor's going down below to check out my daughter, I'm going to be right there to make sure the doctor ain't doing something crazy. Because listen, we don't know these doctors. I'm with my daughter 24/7, 365. That doctor sees her maybe once every blue moon when she's not feeling well. So if he's going down below, either I'm going to be there or my wife is going to be there watching that. Somebody's going to be there. Nobody's
So
going
have
down
you
below.
been to the gynecologist with your daughter?
Not yet. She's still young.
Oh, she's too young. Okay. Though the question is, will you be going?
Absolutely. If my wife can't go, I will. Hey, I went through training, so I'm gonna be there. I'm not gonna like.
Joshua, I saw the side eye. It did not miss me, Joshua. So
Joshua, man, what?
on here? Get in.
No. Now it's, you do what you want to do with your kid. The TI question threw me off totally. I totally think that a parent has the right to go to the appointment with their daughter, man, female. I have no issue with that whatsoever. No problem.
I have an issue.
Okay,
I think that is an infringement upon a female's privacy. I don't think most young girls want their fathers in the room with the gynecologist.
I got a great relationship with my daughter, though.
As a female, I don't care how much they love you, how close you are. That's a private moment. And yes, the mother should be there, but I do not think females want their fathers in a gynecologist.
If nobody else is there, this daddy's stepping up to the plate. That's all I'm saying.
That's your right.
Exactly.
You know,
But-
I hate to hear something like that because, first of all, we need men, we need fathers, and we need them to be strong examples in their children's lives, boys or girls, but especially in their daughters' lives. This is the very first experience that they have with the opposite sex. And so to think that that's harmful to the child that you brought into this world, that is heartbreaking that that's where we are as a society, that you would look at a father who has just as much stake in his child as the mother into saying, you really don't, you're kind of irrelevant, basically.
That's not what I'm saying.
Situation. And
What it sound like.
well,
Go ahead, Janet.
That's not what I'm saying. And I didn't say it was harmful. I said it is an infringement upon a female's privacy and her right to be private. Your father, I will stand up with anyone as far as a Black male. I will stand up, good, upstanding Black male. But you draw the line. There are lines that you draw. And for me, that is one of them. You do not have a father in a room where a young lady has her legs up in stirrups and her father is in there. And I would like to, that's a survey to ask young women if that would be okay. Because I think most of them would say no.
But what you would have a stranger doctor?
What if he's a single father, Janet? What if he's a single father, Janet?
Then he should have her grandmother or find an aunt or a cousin to go in with her.
You can't have it
both
ways.
And if you don't want, no, I'm talking about men who feel that they have to go in with their daughters. I'm not having it both ways. We're talking about something totally different. We're talking about your daughter going in and being examined by a doctor or have a female doctor. And I'm saying, I don't believe that is comfortable for a young lady, especially her first exam. Now, everyone has their opinion, but I'm just telling you, if you were to talk to many young women, I don't believe that they would find that comfortable. T.I.'s daughter certainly did not.
You're right. Most children don't want to have any type of these conversations with their parent. That doesn't mean that the parent should not still have those conversations because they happen to be uncomfortable. That is the best person for you to have the conversation with, as opposed to some stranger. I mean, you would rather keep the parent, the father in this particular situation, you would rather keep the father out but have a stranger, whether it be male or female, their legs are open to them too.
Mhm.
But
But
you,
it's-
at least the
it's
father has some vested interest in this baby. This is
Exactly.
his kid.
We're not
Preach it, girl.
saying
Joshua wanted to weigh in. Go ahead, Joshua.
Oh, no, you're fine. I don't think that Dr. Usher or Keisha is saying that the daughter's legs are going to be up and they're inside the labia. I don't think that's what they mean. I really think they just mean they're going to be in the room, being supportive, answer questions and things of that sort. And I really don't see a problem with that because, as you guys have already said, we don't trust medical professionals in general. So, for example, I have no problem with a man being in the room. I just don't have that problem.
I do. Get a female doctor so you don't have to go that path. And if you saw all of the feedback from what TI did from young women, I think you would understand it. And I'm not.
You do make a point. There was an extreme amount of feedback suggesting that it was inappropriate for him to be in the room with her. I do remember my father buying me pads for the first time. So, and giving me that whole lesson. So it was uncomfortable, but I don't think it would have been any more comfortable with my mother having to give me that whole lecture about what's about to happen to me as a woman now. So it's interesting, but I do understand that. I remember when I first got my first pap smear as well, and neither my mother or father were in the room. I as I look back, I feel like I wish one of them would have been in the room just so I could have held their hands, because all I remember was the torture I was feeling and invasion of, you talk about invasion of privacy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a whole different kind of invasion when you're going in there. I'm like, what is happening? So yeah, I don't care which parent it is. Let's take a quick break. Welcome back to Business of Being Black with Tammi Mack. I am Tammi Mack, and today the business of being Black is, should minors be able to make decisions about their health without parental consent? Now, Janet spoke about instances in which it's probably not healthy for the child to speak out because of extenuating circumstances. But even on a simpler level, some minors won't confide in their parents no matter what. So the question becomes, is it better for those minors to get the help they need from healthcare professionals, or what would be the answer to that, Dr. Usher?
The best solution for that is, number one, the child needs to talk to the parent. If a child goes to a doctor by themselves to seek medical care, I would expect that doctor to call the parent. Somebody needs to notify the parent, because again, there's a legal issue here. Is that if this child, if something's going wrong, every doctor is obligated under law, even me, obligated under law. If there's something going on with their child that we deem dangerous and life-threatening, we have to notify the police at some point. And so don't you think it's kind of blindsiding the parent that, hey, I didn't even know my child had this issue. Why am I being raced off to jail? You know, and here we are, Black in jail again, increasing our prison numbers.
I have no idea how you got us all the way to the jailhouse, Dr. Usher. But
because that's what happens. That's what happens. That's exactly what happens. Because the legal ramifications of this will put Black parents in jail.
Joshua, okay, got you. Understood. Yeah, that's understood. Joshua, what are some answers if a child just won't confide in the parent? Sometimes there are relationships and sometimes even of no fault of the parent that they just cannot reach their child. And so what would be some examples of what a minor can do if they just won't reach out to their parent?
I think the best thing for any minor to do is, I think, as I stated before, I think that first visit, if you are feeling uncomfortable, let's say that you're pregnant, go see your physician, your primary care provider, whatever. We have the right at that point to definitely tell the parent you need neonatal stuff, things of that sort. There's no clear cut answer for me to really give you. But I do think, as Dr. Usher has already said, once the child does come, we definitely need to ask the parent, hey, first of all, ask the child, why you feel uncomfortable talk to your parent. When they say things like, there's some issues at home, talk to case management, obviously we're mandatory reporters. If it's something really bad, you have to mandatory report it. Or if it's something simple like antibiotics, that's contingent on state. So if there's just really no clear-cut, dry answer.
Janet, with the rise of social media, reality television, and easier access to alcohol and drugs, has life for minors in America changed so much to the point that we're growing up faster than previous generations? I always feel like every generation grows up a little faster and faster and faster.
Yes, and I think Dr. Usher, when he was saying, kids listen to music, our music is so that they listen to is so vulgar and full of sex, and our kids are into the music. And so, and it's not only the music, it's in the movies, it's in, everything. So they're growing up fast and they're acting like adults, but they're children. And, statistics for, kids participating in oral sex at elementary school, in the bathrooms, and just so many things.
Elementary school? Are you serious?
I'm serious. Yes, I am serious.
That's real.
In elementary school. And so for me,
Oh my.
it's just getting to those children. As I said, there's 700,000 minors and young adults who have no guardians, have no parents. They're just out there. And so, as I said, it's wonderful when you have a relationship with your kids. They have a good, solid home and they have guidance. But there's so many that do not. And I have worked with many children who have parents. You try and bring them in, they don't want to be bothered. They're too busy. They weren't brought up that way. So it's almost generational. So I just think we have to try and create some type of system that is systemic for our children to get this help. And if it means...
Janet, I want to ask you about Fortitude Health and Wellness Center.
Yes.
Please talk about it.
We are a small business that we work with corporations and community-based organizations, mainly Black, to help them reduce their healthcare costs, not only by screenings, but we go in and we survey the population, look at their health risk. We create the program based on what their problems are, and we implement the program. And I call us a big little company because we work with Aetna, United Healthcare. We've done Susan G. Komen, Black Enterprise, where we go in and we have results. We use a technology that measures, it's been FDA approved. It's a little machine that measures your metabolic rate. It gives you a true BMI, not a guesstimation, you're hiding the weight. It actually sends electrodes through the body where it measures fat, muscle, bone. It gives you
how can we reach out to Fortitude Health and Wellness?
Fortitude, our website, www.fortitudehw.com.
Thank you. Joshua, please, how can people keep in touch with you? And if they need medical attention from the board, do you have it for us to call you on?
Yeah, just follow me on Instagram, JAY_ELI. Same on Facebook and Twitter and everything else.
Dr. Usher, you always have something going on. I don't even know what I should ask you about today, but please share.
DrUsher.com is a website that I have up where I try to give a balanced perspective on social issues, a biblical perspective on social issues are impacting not only the Black community, but the community around the globe, because I want people to get just the facts. There's so much hyperboles going on in the world today. I just want people, hey, just get the facts. So DrUsher.com, you can find me there. You can talk to me there. If you want to argue, I'm not going to argue, but if you want to ask questions, we can talk, we can discuss, and we can grow together and learn together. That's what I'm here for.
I think that's an excellent place to be because honestly, we get so many things outside of facts today, and people are just basing their decisions on random people on social media who have some type of opinion about absolutely nothing based on zero facts. So if I can get the facts from you, Dr. Usher, I am down. I want to be down, in the words of Brandy. Keisha, please, the Keisha King Show podcast.
Yes, so I have the Keisha King Show podcast, and you can go to KeishaKing.com, and that's QUISHA. And also the mass exodus movement that works with helping parents get their children into better education environments. So either one of those, you can use those resources.
So I want to ask, before we get out of here, I want to ask, what is the one thing that minors can do to secure their health and their well-being. What can they do, Dr. Usher?
Talk to mom or dad. And if they go to someone other than their mom and dad, make sure that person talks to the mom or dad.
Joshua?
Talk to a trusted adult, whomever that may be. Ideally, that needs to be the mom or dad, but talk to a trusted adult and go from there.
Janet?
I would agree, talk to a trusted adult. And you have your iPhones, you have your computers, do some research. Look up, find information that you need.
Go to Dr. Usher and get the facts,
Go
huh?
to Dr. Usher and get the facts.
Keisha, I think I know what you're going to say, but what can a minor do?
I have to agree with Dr. Usher. Go to your parents first. You know, there are many ways to talk to your parents. And if
hopefully we can make that work. Dr. Usher, Keisha, Janet, Joshua, thank you so much for being on the show. TGIF is up next. Thank you for being here on Business of Being Black with Tammi Mack on Foxsoul.